From the nation's capital, this is the Fly Fishing Consultant Podcast with your host, Rob Snowhite.
My name is Rob Snowhite, and I host a fly fishing podcast, and this is the 218th episode. I interviewed Jess Westbrook of the Mayfly Project. Now, bear with me in this one. Anytime that we both spoke at the same time, there's a little bit of feedback, but you shouldn't notice it. It's mostly when I ask my questions, but you'll figure out what I'm saying. In this podcast, we're going to learn how a rabbit that likes to go fishing, biscuits and gravy for breakfast, and a personal battle with anxiety lead to teaching children in the foster system to fly fish. The promo code we're going to mention later is this, SB-TMP75. And that is for use at SarahBellaFishing.com, where the proceeds of the Sarah rods goes to the Mayfly Project. That code again is S as in Sarah, B as in Bella, dash, T as in Thomas, M as in Mary, P as in Paul, 75. If you would like to donate flies or gently used, clean, usable gear, please send to the Mayfly Project at 3541 Harrison Road, Benton, Arkansas, 72019. Hope you all enjoy this one. I look forward to seeing some of you at my booth at the Virginia Fly Fishing Festival and at the Mayfly Project booth this weekend. We are expected to get from 0 to 10 inches of snow this weekend, so we're going to see how that one goes. Should be interesting. Thank you for downloading this podcast. We have with us Jess Westbrook today. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jess Westbrook, and I am the founder of the Mayfly Project, which is a nonprofit organization that mentors foster children through fly fishing.
And we're going to learn more about that. Let's learn about you first. Where are you currently? Where are you today?
So today I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I live in Benton, Arkansas. I grew up there, lived there my entire life. Don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
So would I hear you as having a Arkansas accent?
Yes, correct.
You probably don't think you have one.
No, but
you do.
Right. Yeah, no, Rob. Everybody tells me I do, but I think that you guys have accents too, or y'all have accents. I guess.
No, my wife makes fun of me. My parents were from New York, so I had some of their sayings.
Yeah.
My wife thinks that's weird.
Right. Right.
If we've never met you before, is there a celebrity doppelganger we can imagine while we listen?
Oh gosh, I've never been asked that question. I guess I have had people tell me that I somewhat resemble Kenny Chesney without a beard. I have a beard, so like if I was clean shaven, maybe Kenny Chesney, but I have a beard, so you'll have to just add that on there, I guess.
Who would you just say you look like? Hold on, there's a little feedback when I start talking. Hopefully,
okay.
I'll just pause like that. Maybe.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Can you ask that question one more time, Rob?
If you had somebody that you would pretend to look like for listeners, who would it be?
Oh man, I don't know. I've for sure never been asked that question. I would say. Oh gosh, I don't know. This seems like such a loaded question, and my wife and anybody else listening would definitely make fun of me. I don't know, Rob. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. No earthly idea.
All right, let's see. So you grew up. We're in Arkansas. Like I know Little Rock because Capital Bill Clinton's from there.
Right.
Not much else. What is it known for? What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, so I'm from Benton, which is about 20 miles south of Little Rock. So, right in central Arkansas area. I grew up doing all kinds of fishing, duck hunting. There's a lot of like lakes here, as far as like great bass lakes. And there's a lot of great like conventional bass fishermen that come out of Arkansas. But we also have, the Little Red River, which at one time held the world record brown. And then we also have, the White and the North Fork, which are big, bigger rivers, streamer rivers, that kind of stuff. So tailwaters as far, when it comes to like trout fishing and that kind of stuff.
So you're spoiled.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. What were you like as a kid? Were you out there flipping over rocks and digging up worms, playing out in the woods?
Yeah, totally. Growing up, definitely was an outside kid. Dad always had me out, hunting and fishing. And my dad was mainly going to a place in Missouri called Rolling River, Missouri. Grew up fly fishing there, but it was really where we just kind of went on vacation. So we'd fish there for 2 weeks of summer. But then when I'd kind of come back home, I kind of switched back over to the bass and all that good stuff that was really readily available. Most of the tailwaters around me are about an hour and a half each way, so like Little Red's an hour and a half. We also have another tailwater called the Little Missouri that can hold, they stock, and there may be some holdover fish. It kind of gets warm, during the summer months, depending on generation and whatnot. But most of my tailwater and trout fishing is about an hour and a half away. So when I was a kid, it was mainly spent on, ponds and all that good stuff, conventional fishing for bass.
How'd you get a rod in your hand first?
So I'd probably just say my catch and brim, with my dad, just like with just kind of like everybody does, the story of like a Snoopy pole and all that good stuff, catch and brim. And my dad would take me like bass fishing with him all the time. Like he'd pre-fish for all these tournaments and I'd go with him. And it was kind of funny. Like he would take me with him, and I can remember like I had like a pet rabbit as a kid. I can remember like putting that pet rabbit in my dad's rod box, like just so like I could go. So he'd be off on Fridays. So he'd be like, Jess, what do you want to do? And so he coaxed me into going fishing, whatever that meant, whether that meant, stopping by to get my favorite breakfast or, taking a rabbit on the boat, like whatever it had to do to get me to go with him. So I had a lot of time out on the water with him when I was a young kid.
What was that favorite breakfast?
It was definitely sausage, biscuits, and gravy from McDonald's, no doubt.
I don't think we ever had biscuit gravy out here.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, you're missing out.
Yeah,
for sure, Rob.
That's not a normal thing here anyway. I've never seen biscuit gravy at McDonald's.
Oh, gosh, man.
When I went out to Colorado in high school, they had fry sauce at McDonald's. And they went around and they'd fill your coffee up. I was like, what is this?
Right. Yeah, wow. Yeah, well, biscuits and gravy, for sure, Rob. When you get down here to the South or anything, you definitely have to order those.
Yeah,
awesome.
We were supposed to go down to the Outer Banks for a couple of days, but most of the families in the neighborhood backed out at the last minute, so it would be my kid and just older kids.
Okay.
So we didn't end up going, but I was planning on going out for some good biscuits, gravy, bacon.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so is fly fishing your thing now?
Yes. So, I guess, probably when I was still in college, I got the opportunity to guide at a lodge in Alaska. When I did that, of course I'd fly fish my entire life, but that really heightened my, I guess, interest in it, so in my early to mid 20s. So, kind of came back to Arkansas and really focused a lot on fly fishing. And then I would probably say 5 to 6 years ago, I quit doing everything else but fly fishing. So I only fly fish. I haven't picked up a shotgun or anything in 3 years. Do what?
You said you came back to Arkansas?
From Alaska. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just when I came back from that guiding stint during the summer.
All right.
Kind of once then I got real serious about it. And then, like I said, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I turned over to just doing nothing but fly fishing.
Right on. Do you tie as well?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So love to tie, man. That to me, tying's just as fun as, being out on the water. And it kind of allows me, I have 2 small kids, and I have one that will be here probably within the month. While Laura is worried about getting the house ready for, the new baby, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, Laura. I got to order all these materials. Because I know I've got like a week and a half off, and granted, I know there will be a newborn to take care of, but this is our 3rd one, right? So we kind of have it under control, knock on wood, but I'm hoping to tie. So yeah, I love to tie.
What are you tying up these days?
So a lot of Euro style nymphs. I do a lot of, Euro style nymphing. And so, a lot of nymphs with tungsten beads, just focused on, slim bodies and sink rates and all that good stuff.
I have not gotten into those yet.
Oh, they're awesome.
It's
awesome.
One day.
Yeah, I focus on basically, tying simple patterns too. Trying to tie different weights and all that good stuff to, so I can be versatile in, different water, situations or different conditions.
That is what we do. It wouldn't be as fun if you didn't have to go through all those variables and trying to figure things out.
No, definitely not. I love that. Like, to me, that's half the fun is trying to figure stuff out and plan for stuff. And I need this in case this happens, or, I love that stuff. I love all those variables.
So let's start getting into what you do and how you got into it. So the Mayfly Project takes foster children fly fishing.
Correct.
Where did that whole idea come from? Were you out with a kid one day? Do you foster children? So it actually started when my first son was born. So our first son, Case, was born in 2014. When Case was born, that was obviously, first kid, you never know exactly what to expect as a parent. And it definitely was a shock to my system. And when Case was born, I'll never forget, 7 days after Case was born, I had an anxiety attack, which I had never had before. And I don't know if it was due to like the lack of sleep or excess caffeine or what it was, but or a combination of all of those things. But I had my first like panic attacks, and I'll never forget, like I was standing in the shower and I felt my neck and I felt a lump, and I thought, like, it ran through my mind. I was like, oh my goodness, like, what if this is cancer? When that happened, like this whole, I'll never forget that moment. When that moment happened, like my life has changed from that moment on. I started having anxiety and worry just about like, well, if something happens to me, who's going to take care of Case? What's going to happen to Laura? And just played those whole scenarios of just like what ifs, which is way at you. Yeah, but right before Case was born, I had a guy that I fished with. We just fished with. The first time I fished with him was probably 3 weeks before Case was born, and he was a local guide here, and he's a casting instructor, and he's a really well known guide, and he's just an awesome dude. And he took me out, and I really looked up to him at that time, and I still look up to him, but after Case was born, I started having that anxiety, and Chris would ask me to go fishing, and Chris was the guy that I looked up to, and anytime Chris would ask me to go, I would always go because, I looked up to him, I wanted to learn from him. I would notice when I, stepped in the water, like everything just kind of seemed to disappear, and all I cared about was, catching fish. And so it's like, man, Project Healing Waters and all this stuff, and they talk about that, but I'd never experienced it for myself. And so actually experiencing that healing with fly fishing just kind of opened my eyes to it. Like I just fly fish for fun before then, like now I was actually using it as a healing tool. And so I dealt with anxiety for probably about a year, like really intensely. And when I say intense, I mean like missing work. Laura would sit up at night with me, and I would literally be sobbing, worried about whatever, worried if, I had cancer, or what if something's wrong with me, or, whatever. You sound like a Jewish grandmother.
Right. Yeah, no, I felt that way very much.
You sound like my mother.
But, so kind of what happened then was we were sitting at church one day, and I knew that I wanted to give back using fly fishing. I just really didn't know how. And, somebody came to talk about foster kids, and I was like, that was the first time it kind of hit me in the face. And I was like, these kids don't have like parents. I'm like, what does that look like? And of course I had all these feelings with Case, within the last year. And I'm like, man, like I love this little dude more than anything. Like, I don't understand this. And, without my parents, I couldn't have got through the last year either. They come and sit with me on the couch when I'm skipping work because I'm so anxious, and I'm a 30-year-old man, and so anyways, it kind of was like, I told Laura, I was like, I really just want to, mentor foster kids. Like, that's what I want to do. And so Laura and I started taking kids, in like late 2014. Yeah. So that's essentially how the inception of the Mayfly Project and the idea came out.
And how much of your spirituality plays into, I don't know if I guess then it was volunteerism, but now it's a movement. Is this also what you do for a living?
Well, so no, it's not. Okay. So I'm at work right now, but the good thing is the Mayfly Project pretty much, our lives revolve around the Mayfly Project. My bosses at the job that I have now actually switched jobs about a year and a half ago just to have more time with the Mayfly Project. So I could, bring my laptop in here and do this, podcast right now. So, as far as the spirituality, it definitely plays a lot into why I do it. It's not like we require you, to be, a spiritual person to be a mentor. Like we totally think that somebody who is, not necessarily, somebody who is not a Christian or whatever can be a great mentor. It's the reason why that I feel like I felt called to do it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like this is what I was put on this earth to do, was to, help heal these kids just like fly fishing helped heal me. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Podcast producer Jason, he and his wife fostered 3 siblings for a while, man. And now they're officially parents.
Really? Man, that's awesome.
All 3 kids were under, I think, 8 when they adopted them.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's, fostering and adopting. I mean, it takes somebody with a special heart to definitely do that. So awesome, Jason. Way to go, Jason.
Yeah. He's good people.
Yeah.
So how did it go? Did you guys start off in a park one day? And then how did this all just expand into you being at the Virginia Fly Fishing and Wine Festival next weekend? How'd you go from fostering, taking out some foster kids to what you have today? Yeah, so
it's been a wild ride for sure, Rob. We, so my wife and I were just taking foster kids through like mainly 2014 and 2015. And how we did that was, we had some local organizations and we just find kids and take them. And there was no real like plan or anything behind it, and in 2015, December, we got our 501c3. And really what I was going to do is I just got part-time and I was going to donate my tips to buy my kids stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do this. So it'll be a tax deduction for, the few clients that I have, and I'll be able to buy kids stuff and all that good stuff. And I was like, well, I'll get somebody to do a logo for me, and, I'll sell some t-shirts. And, so I contacted Andrea Larco, and she did our logo, which is amazing. And, it hit social media probably in like March of 2016, I guess. I got a call from this lady. Her name is Caitlin Barnhart. So she's from Idaho. And she was like, hey, I'm doing like the same thing you are. I'm taking kids, fly fishing. And, I think it's healing. And she actually has a lot of experience like in social work. And she was like, yeah, we should, like make this a thing. And I'm like, well, okay, I think so, so we all talked about it. We talked about it for we talked about it for weeks. Like, is this possible? Can we do this? And so Caitlin and I teamed up and basically, started with projects. I think in 2016 we had, we mentored 25 kids in 2 different states, which was just Arkansas and Idaho. And then Last year, we mentored 69 kids, and I believe those were from 6 different states. And this year, I guess it's technically 2019, but 2018, we mentored 112 kids from 12 different states, which ends up being, I think there was like 16 different projects total. So some states have more projects. I think Colorado has like 3 active ones and 2 that are trying to get up and going. So, it's been a wild ride for sure, Rob. And we've definitely been blessed with all of it.
So when you say the project, can you explain how these goes on in different cities or states? Are there chapter breakdown? How does one start one?
Yeah, so basically, we have online applications, and so if somebody's interested, if there's not one or somebody's interested in one, they basically just fill out an application and we get an email, and kind of what will happen is if this person decides they want to join an existing project or they want to start one, that's kind of our first step. Like, okay, is there anything around you? And if not, we'll talk to them and see if they're interested in starting one. So starting a project can be time consuming and can take, anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months to a year. We've actually had some projects. One of our projects in Nebraska took us, I think, 9 months to actually find kids. So, basically what will happen is somebody sends us an email, and, if we decide we want to start a project, we of course walk them through this whole process, but basically we have them gather their mentor team. And so normally we like to have, anywhere from 3 to 5 mentors just to start out, just that way there's like accountability. Also, let's just say somebody's sick, you don't have to cancel it. You know what I mean? So you need to have a kind of a group of people. Once that happens, we'll start looking for kids. And typically we like to find kids that are in group homes. And so kids that are in group homes, most of the time have been in care for a while, and they're going to be in care for a little while longer. So, we like to find group homes and kind of team up with them. And we normally mentor our kids through 5 sessions. Those sessions are done in a 6-month window. And in those sessions, we teach our kids everything from casting to fly tying to entomology to keeping our rivers clean. We talk about conservation, how to hold a fish. We have this whole curriculum that our kids go through. And then on their last outing, on the 5th session, we like to take our kids to do something special, whether it's an overnight trip or just a day-long trip, on a river or whatever it is. And we give the kids everything to fly fish on their own. So we'll give them a fly rod, a pack, flies, nippers, hemostats, everything. So basically we want to take these kids from, point A, which is not knowing maybe even what fly fishing is, to, point B, hopefully loving it and having all the gear to do it on their own, and hopefully find, some sort of, healing and emotional healing, I guess, just like I found in it, so we hope they turn to that. They turn to fly fishing versus turn to something bad. Right. You know what I mean? Like drugs or, alcohol or whatever that may be.
Who provides all that gear?
Yes. So we have some very, people in the fly fishing industry have definitely embraced us. So we get a lot of our gear, from, like Cortland, TFO, Fish Pond. So most of the time, we get we get our gear from, typically going straight to companies and asking for support.
Right. And then how is Sarabella from Denver working with y'all?
Yeah, so that's something that's very new. You may have seen that. So Sarabella, what they're going to do is, anytime you buy a rod, they're going to, and use this particular promo code, they're going to donate a portion of that rod sales to the Mayfly Project, which will help fund our projects, I guess.
Do you know that promo code off the top of your head, or just everyone will see it when they follow you on social media? Because that's what everyone's going to do, right? Listeners, thank you. Okay.
Right. Yes. No, I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
We'll look it up, or I'll have it in I'll get it in there somewhere.
Okay.
All right,
cool.
So we know we're getting the gear. Now, how, when you've got kids in foster homes, do they go in? How do these kids find out, you're like, hey, let's go fishing instead of playing video games? Like, how do you find
Yeah.
kids that are willing to go outside and get a little dirty, get in the sun, and go fishing?
It's funny. So, a lot of times they're typical, can be typical teenagers. So some kids are super stoked and, they fished before and they're really excited about coming. And some kids, like when they show up, they're like, well, I'm not fishing or I'm not touching a fish. And we're like, okay, cool. What we kind of tell everybody is we meet these kids where they're at. You know what I mean? So it's not like, if we have a kid that's like, well, I'm not fishing, it's not like, we're like, okay, we'll move to somebody else. We may start out, well, okay, well, let's just talk about this, or, let's go sit down and just look at some of these flies, try to get them interested. A lot of times, when they see all of their other friends, or people in group homes, all their peers, doing it and having fun, generally, they'll pick up the fly rod and they'll end up having just the greatest time as everybody else. But, it can be challenging sometimes, that very first outing. And then typically after the first outing, man, they're stoked to go. Like, they're ready. We laugh. Like, I can't remember. There was a kid this last year in Arkansas. The group home leader, he's like, man, he'll be out in the car waiting 30 minutes before it's time to go. You know what I mean? Like, he's, so we'll have some kids that really just eat it up too, which is awesome to see.
Let's go into the statistics of how many kids out there in foster homes, the percentage of them that get into homes. Like, what, I'm assuming most of us don't know too much about the foster system.
Yeah,
so you can go into some of that and tell us about these kids.
Yeah, so typically in the U.S., and these statistics are literally off the top of my head. So in the U.S. at any given time, there are like 425,000 kids in foster care. And one thing that we like to tell people, these kids aren't in foster care because of something they did. It's because of something their caretaker did. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, these kids are in the system. Yeah, they're not in here, but like you said, because of their choice. They're in there because, whoever was supposed to be taking care of them wasn't doing an adequate job. So, there's 425,000 kids in foster care. I believe there's about 25,000 kids that age out of the system every year. So when I talk about aging out, basically what will happen with the kid is, they'll turn 18, and most of the time the kids will, go out into the world on their own. So I don't know about you when you were, 18, but I definitely wasn't ready for something like that, and out of those 25,000 kids that, are out, get put out on the streets, there are, staggering statistics about teen pregnancy and all kinds of other things that'll happen. I think that, with the kids that age out, 1 in 5 will become homeless, by the time they're 18. And then, 42% of those kids that age out will be convicted of a crime. So, it's just this big cycle, stuff that keeps happening. Most of the time, their parents came from bad situations. So, it's just this vicious cycle. And so we're hoping, we hear all the time about how fly fishing changed people's lives. And I do know what it is about fly fishing, but fly fishing in particular. So we're hoping that, by giving them, the gift of fly fishing, that they will dive into that instead of something terrible, basically.
Is there an average age of the kids that come out to fish?
So not really. Most of them are, I would say like 12 to 18, basically. We tend to find it's a lot of older kids. Now we will get some kids that are younger, 8 or so. We typically tell most people about 8 and up is generally what we'll focus on.
Okay. What's the liability like taking a child from foster care out onto water where there's sharp hooks flying around?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So, obviously, we're just like any other, I'll use, business. We have insurance for all of that stuff. And then, we also have all these policies in place as far as, there's always, we got like a 2-to-1 policy, whether it's 2 kids to 1 adult or 2 adults to 1 kid. That way there's always accountability there. And, same thing with like safety glasses. We actually, one of the new parts of our program is we came out with these buttons our kids can earn. And so one of them is this surprise button, I'll call it, that you get for wearing your glasses, like without having to be told. Because some of these kids, they'll be casting, like next thing I know, I'll look over and they'll have their glasses off. And they're like, yeah, you got to put your glasses on. You know what I mean? And then I'll turn around like 2 minutes later and their glasses off again. So, yeah, definitely trying to keep the kids safe is one of our biggest priorities. You know what I mean? Like you said, because there's a lot of hooks flying around, and I'll hook myself, much less trying to have, 10 kids out there trying to learn how to cast and all that good stuff.
Are they all fishing wireless for themselves?
Yeah, for the most part, we try to. So the funny thing is, a lot of our stuff is, we accept a lot of donations, so we'll pinch the barbs down, so we may get barbed hooks in for whatever reason, but we'll have the mentors pinch them down before the kids fish.
What would a typical outing start like? Can you run us through the day? And
Yeah,
I also want to
yeah.
know like the kids' reactions to just being out there fishing.
Yeah. So, a typical outing, most of the time lasts 2 to 4 hours, unless we're talking about the last outing, which like we talked is a bigger outing, but, 2 to 4 hours, definitely, starts out with casting practice most of the time. We're just throwing yarn flies and hula hoops, and, we even I think Kate came up with this fun game of, okay, if you cast in a hula hoop, you get to throw a water balloon at your mentor, so we'll start out with something fun like that. And, we'll, anytime we're hitting the river, we'll talk about fish handling. We'll talk about, what lives in the stream, entomology. We'll talk about, we'll turn over rocks with them. I mean, showing kids bugs, they eat that stuff up.
Not literally.
Yeah,
Figuratively.
right. Yeah.
There's not kids slurping down caddisflies. Look at Peter over there, man. He's got a thing for aldermites.
Yeah, no, but so we'll do that, and most of the time, we'll have snacks and drinks and all that good stuff. We'll kind of, we'll huddle up and we'll talk about, at the end we'll always huddle up and go, okay, well, what was your favorite part about today? What was, what did you dislike about the day? And 90% of the time, when we first started this, I was like, well, we got to get our kids on fish. We got to get our kids on fish. And I've come to realize, the further we get into this process, that they actually just want us to be there. Like I can't tell you how many quotes I've heard of like, oh, well, we're just so happy that you guys showed up, because a lot of times these kids are relying on people that are
unreliable.
Unreliable. That's all they've known is, okay, well, somebody's going to come pick you up for this or whatever, and then they don't show up, So that's kind of one of the number one things we preach to our projects is like, we do not cancel. Like we just don't, now granted, the group home can cancel and, if they've got stuff going on or whatever, but, if we say we're going to be there and, let's just say it's raining. Okay, well, we're going to move it inside and tie flies. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going to be there. We're going to be there. So we kind of preach that a lot.
I just picture Andy out there with you with the fly rod.
Oh man, it's
that could be another logo. Like that might be offensive.
Right. Oh man, it's definitely awesome to watch how fast kids pick up, on fly casting and stuff too. I think us as a, once we get into adulthood and that kind of stuff, we kind of lose. I don't know if it's pride or what it is, but our kids typically, man, they pick up casting and all that stuff super fast.
Yeah, my kid clients, I had a kid that was 4 years old, and he just picked up the rod and just started casting. And then he catches this huge bluegill, and he looks at me and he shouts, "I thought it was going to be as big as a hot dog." And I kind of paused and just said, yeah, I've never heard that before.
Right.
He hammered largemouth and bluegill, and he had never... You give that rod to a grown-up, and, it's like having them switch fork and knife in their hands. They don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's crazy.
I think kids listen also. When you tell somebody stop your arm there, and then like 8 casts later they're still doing it, and they're like, why am I so tired? I'm like, well, you're bending your elbow and you're hitting the water on your back cast with your rod tip.
Right.
You're making like your rod's doing a full windshield wiper swipe.
Right.
Are all the kids into it? Do you ever catch kids that hook a fish and then freak out? I've had clients do that.
Yeah, so it happens, like not wanting to touch them, and like, it's really funny. We had a kid 2 years ago here in Arkansas, and through the first 4 sessions, I mean, he was kind of into it, but not really. He cared more about like putting stickers on his water bottle than anything else. Of course, I guess typical fly fisherman, right? Just likes putting stickers all over stuff. But we kind of joked because our very last session we had backed up into January, and it was going to be really cold. And the kids had a cabin that they could go back to if they got cold and all this stuff. And we were just joking, saying, oh, well, I can't even remember what it was because we took like some games or something they could play. We were joking about, who's going to stay out there. And, it was actually one of the foster parents talking about it. And they're like, yeah, if he's not really into it, we'll just leave. And, man, that dude stayed out there forever. I mean, once we put him out and he, I think that was maybe his first time fishing cold water. Like we'd done some brim stuff and stuff like that. But, he got in a set of waders. And, man, once that dude got out in the middle of that stream, I mean, he stayed there all day long. I mean, it was like 18 degrees. It was crazy, and he was actually the last one out there. So it's funny, even if they start out not wanting to do it, it always seems like for the most part, they'll end up, just eating it up.
You ever have kids that have been adopted and then come back?
Yes, all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, man, all the time. I don't know if you know this, Rob, but we actually film some short films, like trying to get our kids adopted. So in 2017, I believe we filmed 4 films, and 3 kids got adopted because of them. And then this last year in 2018, filmed 4 kids as well. I know that we've had 1 kid placed, but that process takes so long. Like, if a kid, if somebody wants to adopt a kid, there's like a 6-month, I'll call it a trial period, that they have to live in their house and all that good stuff. So it takes a while for this stuff to be finalized. But yeah, all the time. Like we've had kids. We have 1 kid, Sophia, as a matter of fact. She started fishing with us in 2016. So I guess this will be like her second or third year. I don't know. We have kids that come back all the time. So we really try to, a lot of times we're staying in contact with like their parents, their foster parents, just because they're real into it. And they're like, hey, Jess, just let us know, when you're going to be up, at dry run or whatever, and we'll bring the kids by. And the kids always show up. It's awesome.
It really is amazing that you're taking kids fishing and then also helping them get adopted, like just helping them get an entire new life.
Yeah,
just in fishing.
Yeah, that was kind of a fluke, obviously networking with people, in Arkansas, that are in the foster care. I'll call it. I'm not gonna say industry, but in that world, I'll say. I met with this lady and she runs an organization called Project Zero, and they solely focused on getting kids adopted. I was like, well, you know what? Like the fly fishing industry, like is all about, photography and videography and all that good stuff. I was like, we should team up and film a video together. And she was like, absolutely, let's do it. And I think it was the first video we shared got like 30,000 views, I think. And Nick and Sophia were both adopted because of it. And then the second video we shared, we had some awesome, like our sponsors and stuff share this stuff too. He got like 60,000 views on Facebook in a week. It was crazy, so it's funny, using, I guess, what the fly fishing industry loves, which is, they seem to love videography and photography and that kind of stuff. And it actually ends up helping these kids like find forever homes. It's awesome.
Have you, besides YouTube, have you had a local news station come out and done any local stories?
Yeah, so we've had a few local stories done on us. We had a few local stories done here in Arkansas. We've actually had some done in, I think, Utah and a couple other places. But yeah, we've had some local coverage for sure.
Fantastic. I've got some questions also about the tournaments. I know Molly hosted one out
Yeah.
here in the fall. So how do those get organized, and how does that benefit the project?
Yeah, so like you said, Molly Simpkins, she organized our first Two Fly event at Rose River Farm, and Molly and Heather Seas, so Heather is from Pennsylvania, did most of the organization for that tournament, and man, I mean, they killed it, honestly. Rob, like I basically told them, because like I told you earlier, I have a full-time job, and I do all of the bookkeeping and stuff like that for the Mayfly Project. And I was like, if you guys want to do this, like, y'all are going to have to do it. And I just, we gave it to Molly and Heather, and they just ran with it. And so we had a great turnout. We had 24 anglers. We filled it up, and we had some awesome raffle prizes and giveaways. And we had some custom trophies done by like Amanda Wilshire out of Denver, who's an amazing artist. And we put all that stuff together, man. We raised a lot of money for our new projects in 2019. So we kind of tell a lot of our people that are starting our new projects to just worry about getting the project up and running and being stable. Don't necessarily worry about fundraising per se. The money that we raise there is going to go to help fund all of our new projects in 2019.
Any projects that you know about now that you can mention?
Well, so we, this year we ended up having, I think, 16 different projects. Next year we have on the schedule to have somewhere in the upper 20s. I'm trying to think about new states that we're thinking about. New states will be Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas. We'll have a couple new projects in Colorado. Let's see, Michigan, Iowa. Man, there's a lot, Rob, honestly. There's so many. Yeah, there's a lot. And so, we kind of, not all these kids, most of these projects will have 4 to 5 kids in them. You know what I'm saying? It's not like each project's going to have 20 or 30. Most of them, the majority of, we work with one of the biggest group homes in Arkansas, and I think they have like 19 kids, at max capacity. So like I said, most of these projects will be mentoring 5 to 6 kids, which is okay. We're not necessarily about, pumping just a bunch of numbers through our system. Like, we actually want to give these kids a tool to hopefully, use to do something else with their life, And again, I mean, it's just fishing, but it's actually not just fishing. When we're working with them, when we're teaching them how to tie flies, and we're teaching them how to do all this stuff, they develop actual life skills. You know what I mean? So like, tying on a fly, let's just say on like 7X tippet, can take patience, and so we're actually trying to teach these kids like, okay, that patience that, it takes to, tie on a fly, like, you actually have to have that patience too. Like, when you're, just in everyday life, like, let's just say at school, you have to have patience to wait your turn to do something. Or, let's say we go up to, the river, and we're really wanting to catch a fish, and fishing's just tough that day. Like, we build grit, create persistence, same thing. Like, you're working on this math problem at school, like persistence, keep at it. It's okay. You can do it. We're building confidence, and, hopefully, like I said, we're pointing out those everyday life skills that they are learning, and they're not necessarily even realizing they're learning. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else about the project you want to talk about before I go into some silly questions?
Oh gosh.
Well, we got the Virginia show coming up.
Yeah, the Virginia show's coming up. You know, Heather Seas will be there and Nicholas Carley. So Nicholas is he's going to be running our Virginia chapter that we're trying to get up and going. So they're both going to be there. We're going to have a booth there and have some free stickers and whatnot. So, you guys definitely come by and check out the booth and talk to Heather and Nicholas for sure.
All right. Where can we find you on social media? And
So,
how can people also donate if you need donations? Because you are a 501c3.
So obviously we have all the major social media accounts as far as, Instagram and Facebook. And so you can just, look up, I think both of our handles are just, at the Mayfly Project. So, just look us up on social media. And then, we also have like a text to give number. So, if anybody wanted to give, you could just text give to 1-501-238-6611, or you can go to our website and there is like a giving tab that has options on how to give and ways to give and all that good stuff. So we also accept a lot of in-kind donations. So, if you have like an old set of waders that preferably don't have like a quarter size hole in them, we would love to. Yeah, right. Nickel size, I can fix that. Penny size, I can fix that. But no, I'm just, we take all that stuff too. So we definitely need all that stuff.
What about flies? Do you need listeners
oh
to
my
send
goodness.
you some flies?
Yes. So we always use flies. I think this last year, man. So we also do this event called the One Fly event where you buy raffle tickets and get flies with it. We raffled off an adipose boat this last year, which was pretty cool, and thanks to adipose for that. But so I think this last year we probably went through almost 10,000 flies. Between our projects and just our events like that and whatnot. So we always need flies.
Okay, we'll do a Tidal Potomac Fly Rodders night where we all tie and donate.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. All right, let me get into some non-serious questions then. Ready?
Oh, goodness. Okay, I guess.
Best sandwich you've ever had?
Best sandwich, I'm going to have to go with Firehouse Subs. I know that's a chain, but I really love their New York steamer, and I could eat 2 of them for sure.
They don't have the Cleveland kind, do they?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
Don't look that up.
Okay, I won't.
Worst place you've ever fished?
Oh, gosh. Worst place I've ever fished. I'm going to say Kansas. So my wife and I have a goal to catch a fish on a fly rod in every state, and catching one in Kansas wasn't necessarily the funnest or easiest. I stepped in a cow patty, too, walking up the pond dam. So
it happens.
Yeah.
Do you have a ridiculous phobia?
Other than like all the anxiety I talked about earlier, I would say my biggest phobia is probably spiders, for sure. Which I feel like is totally legitimate. Huh?
You got big spiders out there?
Not really big spiders. It's more the small ones that can get places where I don't really know that they're there that really scare me.
Like your belly button?
No. I mean, I was thinking more of like shoes or clothes, but
okay.
I guess belly button. Yeah, that's really scary.
When is posing with a fly rod on your shoulder okay?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna say if it takes both hands to hold the fish, like if the fish is big enough to require you to hold it with 2 hands.
All right. What about the people that do that on the edge of a boat in 100 feet of water?
No, it's never. I take it back. It's never okay, Rob. It's never
ding,
okay.
Ding. Favorite Harrison Ford movie?
I'm just gonna have to go old school and say Indiana Jones.
Very good. What would you tell your younger fly fishing self?
Oh goodness, definitely. Don't worry about the pattern. It's all about presentation.
That's good for everybody.
Yeah.
Strangest thing you've seen on the water?
I was fishing in North Carolina earlier this year, and it rained. So we went on this vacation, it was solely like a fishing vacation, right? And we were going to fish like the Nantahala and the Ravens Fork and fish a bunch of rivers over there. I didn't mention this like in my backstory, but we actually have a girl that lives with us that is she's 20 years old now, and both of her parents passed away when she was in high school. And so this was our first trip with Hannah. And so we had 2 small kids and Hannah, which we had, we had known her for a little while, but, it was still new, her living with us. And we went over to North Carolina for 10 days of fishing, and it rained all 10 days. And so, I'm over there to fish. So I was still fishing anyways. And I was in the water, and the river was getting it. So I couldn't get that far in it. But a beaver, literally almost ran into me. That's how high and muddy the water was, where I almost got ran over by a beaver. So that would be the most interesting thing that I've ever seen, almost being, knocked over by a beaver.
So then we would have had Jess got ran over by a beaver and Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Right. No, that's exactly right.
Song about you.
Right. Yeah. So that's the strangest thing. I think it just made me laugh. I thought it was really funny,
Well, the last episode, they saw an elk pick up a fly rod and drag it through the river with the fly out of the water. Really? It didn't catch anything, but if it had, that would have been even more bizarre.
That's awesome.
If you had access to DeLorean with a flux capacitor and plenty of plutonium, where in time would you go to fish before humans had ruined it all?
I would probably say maybe Alaska, to fish and I know that's probably not a very good place. So, but they have some huge king runs and stuff up there, on the Nushagak and stuff like that. So I think I'd like to go back to the Nushagak and just be by myself with nobody else there, even though it's pretty remote as it is, but nobody else on the water, just be by yourself, and try to catch a freaking monster,
the
60-pound on a fly rod. Yeah, that's what I'd love to do.
Also, before the last question, how much of your work in Alaska helped you teach kids and just prepare all of this?
So, working in Alaska was, it was a lot of hard work, so I was, still pretty young. And so there's a lot of seasoned guides there. But I feel being in Alaska, it just takes you away from everything, which is pretty good to just kind of find out about yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you're up there and, you're waiting on class to come or whatever, and you've got, 3 days by yourself, at camp or whatever. It's a lot of good time to just figure out who you are as a kid, or as a person. And as far as teaching kids, definitely taught me patience. Sometimes I feel like I told you earlier, I feel like adults can be harder to teach than kids a lot of times, just like you said, because a lot of times they don't listen and stuff like that. So I would say I developed a lot of patience up there, I would guess.
All right. My final question for you, hot dogs, ketchup or mustard?
Definitely mustard, for sure. Yeah.
All right, Jess Westbrook, it's been a pleasure having you on, and
yes,
thank your boss, Lumberg, for the time, and thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Rob. Appreciate what you do, and man, love the podcast, and man, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we'll catch up with your volunteers at the Virginia show a week from tomorrow.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And I hope the reverb that I'm hearing didn't record.
Okay, yeah, me too. Me too.
Jess.
Knock on wood.
Thanks so much.
All right, buddy. Thank you. All right, bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Fly Fishing Consultant Podcast. For more information or to contact Rob, please go to www.robsnowhite.com.